out there supporting a choice of live local music.
All right, everybody. The time is now 5:05, and we're going to begin tonight with our presentation and this discussion of Enough is Enough, Stop the Violence. So as we begin tonight, here's how it's going to go down. We're going to begin with a word of prayer, and then after that, we'll have a few housekeeping introductory remarks. And then after that, we will have our guest panelists. We're excited about being with us tonight. And they will give their introductory remarks and tell us about their work and their organizations. And then we'll have some questions that are pre-written by our pillars of justice and beyond. And then we will have some questions from you who are joining us tonight. So we are very, very glad that you are here. And so let's begin with a word of prayer as we gather by this platform that we are very grateful to have. So take opportunity now to ground yourself right where you are. Remove yourself from any distractions because this conversation is extremely important, as we all know. And let's just begin to be on one accord in as much as possible, even being separated right now. Oh God, our Creator, we pause now, understanding that we don't have all the answers. God, we're trying to figure this out. We're believing in a better future than what we see right now. God, we gather on this call because we are hopeful people. We are people that have creative minds. We are people who have passion. We are people that seek justice and equity. And so, God, we ask and we declare that we don't pray in vain, but we believe in supernatural power. And what we're going to need now is supernatural power. That what is happening in our city, and lest we forget, not only in our city, all over our nation, yes, is systemic and has deep roots. And so, God, we ask that we would join together as a nation, that systems would be changed, that oppression would begin to be recognized, and that the systems of racial inequities would begin to be broken. And so, God, we gather in that vein tonight to not only just discuss the problem, but to figure out solutions, God. And so we ask now that you would give us that ability to just be creative and to move forward, to be empowered to do action. I ask this in the name of Almighty God, our Creator, and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Let me say here, for those of you who have not joined us at Justice and Beyond recently, in the last months, or over the course of the pandemic, or the last several years, want to make it very clear that we are a coalition of many different organizations that have come together to amplify the voices of brown and Black people. That is our mission, to amplify the voices of brown and Black people. We do that very intentionally by making sure that we represent Black voices when we have our panel discussions. We want to get Black folks in leadership. We do not admittedly have enough Black folks in leadership. We need more. We want more. We want you to be in planning with us. We took a step back several years ago to reorganize when co-founders Reverend Dwight Webster and Pat Bryant stepped back and stepped down. We made it our goal to reorganize in such a way that this organization, this coalition, would never be hinged upon the leadership of one or two people, but would be dependent on many people. And that is why we have what we call our pillar system. Pillars are organizations that have signed up to be a part of the vision casting and the direction and the future and planning of justice and beyond. If you want to be a pillar organization or just a pillar, then send me an email, gmanning1973@yahoo.com. Call me 913-940-5713. Anybody can put that in the chat they want to. We need you. We need you on board to elevate the voices of brown and Black people and be a part of justice and beyond. I am one of the co-moderators, Pastor Gregory T. Manning, pastor of Broadmoor Community Church, where no perfect people are allowed. Other co-moderator is Miss Sylvia McKenzie. Other co-moderator is Mr. Trevor David Bryan II, who is our youth co-moderator. And we are happy to be your co-moderators. But this is more than just about us. There are many people behind the scenes, such as Brooke Randolph, Elizabeth Soychak, Valerie Jefferson, Dr. V.P. Franklin, Ernest Johnson, who are working behind the scenes to make this happen. Rissa and Richard Saxer, just myriad of people. So let me say that. So with no further ado, just to make it clear, we operate in this space under the principles of peace, love, and respect as we come together to discuss tonight. Our goal is to come up with actions that we can move on and demand from our city, not waiting for our city to act, but making sure that we act as in understanding the power of the people. So as we do that tonight, just put your creative hats on, your organizing hats on, and let's think together. Tonight, I want to introduce our guests to you today, our experts who are working on the front lines in this area of the violence in our city that all of us are concerned about. And so we want to hear from them as to what they believe needs to be done. And so I'm going to ask them one by one to introduce themselves and to tell you who they are and tell you what organization that they are representing and what the work of their organization is, just a little bit about what they do. So let me ask Ms. Tamara Jackson to introduce herself first. Welcome, Tamara. We're very glad, as always, to have you at Justice and Beyond. Tamara, are you here?
I'm talking, it was still muted. My apologies.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
My name is Tamara Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of Silence is Violence. My organization advocates and offers material and logistical support to crime survivors, both in Orleans and Jefferson Parish. We work extensively with victims' families, the criminal justice system, to coordinate and try to eliminate the gaps that exist systemically. So that's just a little brief about me and my work.
All right. Thank you, Tamara. Let's go to, we're glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us. We'll come back to you. Let's go to Leroy Crawford. Leroy, would you just tell us a little bit about your role, your position, what your organization does?
So good evening, everyone. My name is Leroy Crawford. I'm actually here in Arkansas, but I'm from New Orleans. I work in New Orleans with my company. It's called Answer Out Behavior Consulting Services. And my role has been to bridge the gap with not only evidence-based projects, but the opportunity for innovation and things that people have done in other places to save lives that we should be doing at home.
That's good. That's good. Thank you, Leroy. Leroy, we appreciate you being here tonight. I'm going to come back to you. Let's go to Bradisha Harness Parker. Welcome, Bradisha. Tell us who you're representing, what your organization does, what your role is.
My name is Braisha Harness Parker. I'm the founder and executive director of the New Orleans Youth Coalition. I know a couple of times the flyer was put out as it relates to me being with NOYA. I am no way affiliated with NOYA, neither do I work with that organization. So just to clear that up, my organization bridges the gap between the people and politics in order to bring necessary and accessible resources to communities across NOLA while also creating economic opportunity. So we're kind of like a one-stop shop as a coalition. We don't just do one thing like other organizations focus on. We focus on mental health, trauma, programming, organizing, coaching, mentoring, resources, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Thank you for clearing that up, who you're with. And we apologize that got erroneously printed, and we did get it corrected as quickly as possible. So thank you for that clarification. Let's go to Mr. Antonio Travis. Would you tell us who you're representing? Tell us about your work, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Antonio Travis. I'm the founder of Black Man Rising Movement. It's a career healing, a career-focused healing mentorship program where we work with young men ages 13 through 18. We take them through our curriculum where we develop them, teach them social skills, learning skills, pair them up with people in the community so that they can gain real life skills, so that they can, so we can put them on their first path, to success. So, yeah, and we advocate as well. We feel like you can't do true mentorship without becoming advocates, because again, the issues that our young men face, we can, big brother do all that stuff all day, but if we're not helping fight against the systems that cause the issues in their lives, then we're not doing it. So we're advocates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Antonio. Let me start off with a real broad question. The title is Enough is Enough, Stop the Violence. Now, as we look at our city of New Orleans and the fact that crime is spiking, that violence seems to be on the rise, when certain people hear that title of Stop the Violence, there are certainly nuances to that, and people hear certain aspects of violence when they hear the term violence, because violence can span across a great spectrum. When you hear that word violence, what comes to mind for you all as panelists tonight? What are we missing? Are we missing the mark and just focusing on homicides, carjackings? What else is there that we might be missing? Tamara, can you answer that? Can we start with you answering that question?
Yes, you can. For me, violence is understanding the bigger picture of the perpetuation of violent incidents. The causes of violence, I think, are most times put in the back of our minds. The city, and then on a national level, people are reacting, right? And we're not really focused on how we got to this point, with the understanding that these incidents are not just happening. They're happening because we have our young people who are disenfranchised. They're living in poverty. There's generational trauma that has not been addressed with the family unit. And we are expecting, I hear a lot of times folks say it's the parents' fault. Hurt people cannot support another one that's hurt, right? They're giving you a piece of themselves that's already broken. So we have to be realistic when we want to hold parents accountable, and I think they should have some degree of accountability. But we also need to look at the fact a lot of times these folks are dealing with generational traumas. The parents have come from broken households themselves. Our young people are actually raising themselves. I sometimes feel like we set them up for failure systemically. We have a broken educational system. There's poverty that also comes into play when we talk to violence. And people are really trying to survive. They're trying to survive, and in their survival mode, they're infringing violence upon others. But for them, they're surviving.
Yes, thank you, Tamara. Tamara, let me just ask this real quick, because you said something, holding parents accountable. How do we do that? What are some ways that we hold parents accountable?
That's a good question. Like the system, I think the system has controlled our very being enough with how we're able to move and thrive in our communities. But I think for us as community members, I think we know Miss Bessie's son is out after hours at night. I think it's a conversation at the community level that we should be supportive of each other. You know, there's a a thing where it takes the village to raise the child. The village is not existing anymore. The villagers are gone. And the younger people are just not as interested in investing in their neighbors, in their communities, in their schools. Pretty much we're dealing with a society that's on their own. They want the help when trauma hits their door, but if it's somebody else, you turn a blind eye and deaf ear to it. It's time for the community to step up. It's also time for the faith-based community to step up, because that's where Black and brown people have their biggest strength. It's in the church. And we always want to work from a strength-based perspective, but how can you do that if nobody's making themselves available to you?
Thank you, Tamara. And I want everybody to remember that the community is a central word there. How have we broken down and deorganized or disorganized the community? How do we need to organize it again? Demand organization, and the impact of our Black church is critical. Thank you for that. Leroy Crawford, in your viewpoint, what do you hear when you hear the word violence? What are the nuances of that maybe those of us on the call are not thinking about, and including those root causes?
Oh, that's a great question. And what I've had the opportunity to do in the last 25 years, actually, most recently I wrote a book called PBKs, Poor Black Kids, Why Do They Kill Resident Gun Violence? And as I use this book as a training tool here in Arkansas, as well as Tennessee, I think about something that people may overlook, and that's the understanding the need for talent acquisition. I believe so frequently we just look at the community, but we really have the wrong people in the right places. We just have bodies in seats. We're looking for a service from people who has no knowledge of it. We're looking at resumes and looking at GPAs that gives you no clear idea of emotional intelligence. We have people sitting in places where we're gonna help those kids who truly don't care. So when you look at violence, if a kid was arrested or detained and he's at a place where the person is not qualified to give the rehabilitation, the support, the mental health, or the emotional needs to be addressed, then when they return home, what's going to take place? And we see this from time and time again. I must share the assistant superintendent at the Youth Study Center, and I've also worked for Bristol Center for Youth. And you just find that those particular places do not do well with hiring. And if you can't find talent management, no matter how we try to address violence, it'll return back to the same outcome, which is they're not trained, we don't have the right places, and we're putting people in places that are becoming more damaging than helping others. And that leads to violence. Okay,
so one of the things that we have to demand is more scrutiny and more accountability when it comes to the hiring practices of those that put in charge of the future of our youth.
Yes, that's correct, because success is not necessarily guaranteed, but the fact that you compete should be important. Those things that I'm talking about is the simple deal. What does a schedule look like in a facility? What does a normal schedule look like in a juvenile facility? And does it model school? What does it look like to have a teacher? And what is necessary for the teacher in the school? And the last thing I would say that's super important, if you have to be degreed, certified in those things to be a teacher, and Antonio we talk about this all the time, then why don't you need anything to work in the juvenile facility? If you have to be degreed, certified, and have all these things to be a qualified teacher in our school system, then why don't you need the exact same thing to deal with a more challenging audience that's learning how to become more pro-social in a setting where it's even more damaging? I could not saying this in a bad way, I could come with a GED from working at rallies and go to the detention center. With the same kids, I need to have a master's degree or more to go to school. It doesn't, we can't expect the outcome to be different.
And a lot of people don't know what you just said. A lot of people that are on this call don't know that about the Youth Study Center, the Juvenile Detention Center. They don't know that you don't need a degree to teach the children there.
No, the qualifications the qualifications simply may be to have a high school diploma and not have a record, right? So that's bodies and seats. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to have experience, because you need both. But if you have a kid who may be involved in some type of violence, trauma, whether it be PTSD or ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, the average person has not been trained to deal with those kids So two things happen here. They become piggybacks of poor impression, so you learn more, or they classify properly, where you can have a person that's on one level, like a 12-year-old should not be on a dorm with a 17-year-old. You just got to look at the inside of it. And I think, Ernest is on here. You have to really be serious about what you're doing, because you're harming kids more than you're helping them. And then they return back home and they harm others.
All right. Thank you. Can you put the name of that book in the chat again so everybody can know it?
Okay, I will.
All right. Appreciate that. All right. Radisha, can you tell us, in your estimation, in your opinion, what does that word violence encompass, and what are the root causes of violence that is taking place right now?
It's truly heartbreaking. And for me, to sit on a call and listen to a lot of people feedbacks and opinions, I'm like, wow, this is what we are in 2022. And I agree with Mr. Crawford. We have all of the wrong people in the right places. You have organizations on this call that wouldn't work with other organizations to bridge the gap that has been caused by violence, crime, et cetera, et cetera. We oftentimes love to sit on these panels and throw meetings and throw conferences and fuss with each other instead of addressing the root of the problem. We listen, I read the questions. We got the answer to all them questions over 1 million times, with the exception of the question about the city council 8-point plan. We just asking questions to give the same answers, do the same thing. No one want to put people in positions such as myself, Antonio, Leroy, that man had to leave to really help bridge the gap between all of these problems. Ain't no way in the world. I work with damn near 80% of juveniles that come out the youth study center, but I can't get funding. I can't get support. I can't get invited to tables. People are putting my name on books and stuff that's been published that I have nothing to do with. It's the problem is we have this continuous cycle of violence because we want to talk. We want to meet. We don't want to show up and get in the trenches and mentor kids. I get calls from all day who want to commit suicides because we're not addressing the root. We're not addressing the root of the problem in the schools, in the homes. And to piggyback on what Tamara said, the community needs to step up. Well, the community has stepped up, but we have also been locked out. I mean, we can't battle with the council. We can't battle with the community. We can't battle with the nonprofits who don't need a degree to start a nonprofit, but you need a degree to get hired with them. We can't fight all them fights. The community have stepped up, but we've been shut out. It is sad that in 2022, we are still on calls, panels, and conferences saying what to do about violence. It's unacceptable, in my opinion, to sum it up all together.
I couldn't agree with that more. What I'm feeling, and I had the same issue going into this conversation tonight, but what I believe is that we need to not only be about talking, we need to be about action. And that's what I'm hearing, the frustration in your voice, and totally agree with it. If we can't come out of this call with some sort of organized action that we're going to step forward on to circle the wagons and support people like you that are doing the work, that are part of this community, then it makes no sense to have this conversation.
I don't mean to interject, Gregory Manning. I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to ask, what are you guys going to do with all of our responses? Are we going to be involved in whatever type of map or solutions you guys decide to create? Because oftentimes I sit on these calls, I go to these conferences, I get hired with these jobs, but nobody understands, value, or appreciate my opinions or nothing that these kids are bringing to the table. For a really long time, there haven't been a platform since Teen Summit and other youth programs to allow kids to voice how they feel, to allow kids to give us the tools and everything. I mean, it's sad. It's horrible. Yeah,
and I hear your frustration. Tell us right now, what would you like the outcome of this call to be? What can we best do to support you, and not only support you, support one another, because we're in this together? What is one outcome that would show you that this is just not about a bunch of talk tonight?
Do the work, fund our community. Something I'm telling people about NOIC, we don't want to be highlighted. We want to be funded. In order to keep these kids off the streets consistently and constantly, right now, I can't even accept no more kids because we don't have funding and we don't have support. I'm so thankful for Ubuntu Village, who was able to take one of my kids and actually help their parent navigate the court system. But again, it's so many layers to this. Even as the New Orleans Youth Coalition, I can no longer do it by myself. So I will appreciate if the 50 people that's on this call could reach out to me and say, hey, How can we support, whether it's monetary, volunteers, showing up, or just standing up for the youth? In the last 4 years, which we had a new council and a mayor, can somebody on this call tell me what has been done for poor Black children in or out the juvenile justice system without limiting any other kids of no other race? What are we doing to say, yeah, in New Orleans, we doing this for the youth? We ain't doing nothing, but we want them to stop killing, jacking, robbing, and we want them to talk to the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, who don't have nothing in place. To sum it up, Pastor Manny, stop playing, come in the trenches, and do the work. A lot of this stuff requires mental health and trauma-related work. All this is about poverty, trauma, mental health. People are in survival mode. Until y'all start putting mental health hubs in our communities, I'm talking about the projects, and we ain't got to go all the way to Children's Hospital and auction them. We're going to keep having people going crazy and killing people and getting on drugs. What are we doing to rehabilitate and rebuild these strong villages we had before Hurricane Katrina?
All right. Thank you, Radisha. We listen, everybody, as she asked, Radisha, please put your contact information in the chat if you haven't already. Reach out. Again, I cannot say it enough. This is a time to be about action. Whatever we need to do, what we have been doing, obviously is not working. And so we will talk and have a conversation about funding, reallocating and making sure that investments are put where they can best be used instead of people that are going to sit in high places and not do anything. That's the demands that we need to have and not wait on the city to do it. Let me hear from Mr. Travis on this as well too. So, Brother Travis, what's the root causes for you?
Yeah, I think everybody said it. Like, you know, I think we know what's going on. We know poverty, trauma. Like, we know these are the root causes that cause the issues that they have in the community. And when you talk about violence, it's like the song from Drake, 0 to 100. What happens is, you know, 100 being your breaking point, when violence is the language of the unheard. So when people reach that breaking point, that's when we want to react. That's when we want to act like, you know, that time that it took for them to get to 100, that time we ignored, that time we didn't have what we need in place for them to prevent that from happening. When they get to that breaking point and everybody up in arms and confused on what happened. I'll just give you an example and I'm done. I have a kid who I worked with when we did have funding, because we don't be getting, you know, we don't really have, we'll have funding either at Black Men Rise. I have a lot of kids who won't join us, but you know, again, to really do this work effectively, you are an advocate 24/7. You got to show up to schools, courthouses, and everything for these kids. And we at capacity, we can't really do that right now because we don't have the funding to do that type of stuff. But when we were able to do it, it was this one kid, and I'll never forget, that I worked with. And he told me he went as far as he went to, you know, he's been incarcerated for carjacking and stuff like that. And I had to bring him to my apartment one day because he had a situation at school. And he told me, he's like, listen, I told people who was doing my paperwork that I'm trying to kill myself and everything just so that I could get help. And so it's not the fact that these kids are not saying nothing. Like, they're telling you the best way that they know how. They're articulating to us what's needed. Nobody listening, you know, nobody listening to the dude outside Walgreens, outside the gas stations with the window wipers, who asking you, can they wipe your windows to make a little change? Nobody listening to them. But when they jumping in your car and stuff, everybody up and home. So like I said, I just say it's a process. We want to continue to ignore. We want to not put what we need to put in place, and then everybody want to be upset when, you know, people hit their breaking point. And so it's like everybody else said before me. Everybody else broke it down. Like, we know what we need. We know, you know, what the root causes are, and we need action. We need to make it happen.
We're recording this meeting for those of you who don't know, and I hope someone is taking notes as well too, because there are recurring themes to what we're hearing. One of those recurring themes is the funding is not getting to the people that are truly in the trenches that are willing to do the work. And that's across the board in our city. People getting 6-figure salaries and not keeping the people's best interest at heart and trying to elevate the people and stop the systemic problems and be going on a long time. Let me ask this next question. Are we rolling? The next question is, I'm going to lead with Leroy. Leroy, are we rolling back reforms? Let me ask you that.
Well, when you think of reform in totality, it's not necessarily what people believe it to be. Reform has different avenues. For example, when you speak of equity, then it should be no challenge to understand that those who have less need all of it, not those who have more needs to maintain. When your mom goes shopping, if you don't need a pair of shoes, she don't buy you a pair. We saying when my mom goes shopping now with schools and different programs, everybody gets something. So that's one of the things we struggle with. Reform is based on the opportunity for people to return and have the greatest asset to be a quality citizen. But what is a quality citizen when there's no equity? Why would you have a program that's quote unquote called reentry? So let's listen to the words. Reentry means that you have been through something, and usually it's followed with adjudication, which means you've been convicted of something. We're saying we want to save our kids. Well, we call a program a reentry program, but you put a reentry program on the front end of prevention. Why would you name a program a reentry program when they've never been incarcerated or they've never been convicted of a crime? So now you have what's considered reentry counselors who then, again, don't understand the talent that's needed to provide that service. So you're saying to a kid who has made a misdemeanor crime or a status offense, he qualifies for a reentry. But those kids who may have weapons go through the system, and the only time to get the support is on the post. So you see, prevention money, intervention, and post. So that tells you that reform is done the correct way, but we're putting the cart before the horse because it seems to be more money follows post than prevention. So you have to name things: reentry, anger monitors, support systems. Usually that was called FINS, families in need of services. But now to have the service sound differently, it sounds like reform. So it almost makes people with kids who are doing the right thing feel like I got to do something wrong to get your attention. Antonio just said it. The kids say, I have to say I'm going to kill myself. I have to say I'm going to do these things to get that help. They say if you've done something wrong, then you could go to school for free. If you've done something wrong, then you qualify for a trade. If you've done something wrong, so let's look at what are the particulars of what's the qualifications. If you've done something wrong, then you get everything. So is reform about money? Or is reform truly about the people having the opportunity to return back to a community and be their best?
Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Radisha, are we rolling back reforms?
Same thing Mr. Crawford said. I mean, this is probably gonna be my answer to everything. It's the same cycle, the same circle over and over. Pastor Manny, a question to you. Do you feel like we are doing anything as it relates to reform to better impact and be beneficial to our youth and families?
I don't. I think that we have not tackled the root causes and the root issues. If we're really, we've got to go to the heart of the matter. We've got to totally break down what we've been doing. The reforms that we've been practicing are not working. They're not enough. They're not as many. They continue to reinforce the stereotypes. I think that we have not begun to tap into what we could do as far as reforms are concerned. I think we're still living in the 20th century when it comes to reform and not the 21st century. So I think, what Leroy just alluded to was our school system. And we have to do something to get into a trade school. Why is that the case? As I continue to say over and over again, there is no reason why in this city we should not have a vocational school that is allowing our children to have the skill sets that they need to have gainful employment in our city. That's the kind of reform that I think we need to be a part of.
And around reform, it usually doesn't come from decisions made by community with the community. So I think all of these conversations are great, and I'm grateful to be on this call, but the real conversations need to start at the top with leadership that's involved in policy, laws, and changing all of this stuff so that the community work that we're doing on the ground can be a lot leaders. It's some community leaders, council people, nonprofit that won't even let you in a room so that you can give your expertise and your advice around reform. So this conversation got to start at the top. It doesn't have to start at the bottom. Folks like myself, we know what we're doing on the ground. I've been doing what I've been doing for 20 plus years. with zero funding. I'm just becoming aware of funding in 2021 to get some type of support and help. So it's just stop beating a dead horse. Stop having all these same conversations. We need to go, well, not me, because I'm over it. Go talk to them city leaders, city council, the governor, these nonprofits, and all the people in charge of carrying this out, and ask them to change stuff, because we on the ground doing what we got to do. I know I am. I know NOYC is.
I got you. Thank you, Radisha. Antonio, are we rolling back reforms?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. If we talking about reforms, I don't even see the proper things we haven't, like, for me, reform and something can be proactive. Like, so we could have what we need in place already. We know what we need in place. I just feel like when it comes to us talking about reforming something, the people who we need to listen to, we're not listening to. And so we keep getting these things that don't work with what we're trying to do. And so it's like she said, it's like a cycle that we keep going through. Like, you know, but yeah, that's all I like on reform. Like, I don't even see real reform happening in the city, like, at all. Like, nothing real, nothing sustainable.
Right. Yeah, we're investing in the same paradigms that are not working. Let me ask this question. Let's move on to the next question. No, you gotta go to tomorrow. Tomorrow, what do you say on that topic of rolling back reforms?
Of course, I feel like reform has rolled back and been for quite some time. But we're not really addressing the elephant in the room. And a lot of the reforms, policies, funding, all play a part in racism and classism. And until we get to the point where we can have sensitive conversations about our Black and Brown communities and accessibility, because it is different. In my work, I'm a clinical social worker, and in my work through Orleans Parish Coroner's Office, I respond to all of the homicides in the domicile of Orleans Parish. And in that response, it's different when the decedent is a white male versus when he's a Black male. And that shouldn't be. The response is different from our criminal justice partners when it's a white family versus a Black family. And that shouldn't be. And when we look at the nonprofit sector and those individuals who are boots on the ground doing the work, such as myself, funding is diminished. It's the organizations who we can hardly figure out what it is that they're doing that have the $2 million budgets. But that's a bigger conversation. But when we look at reform and policy and social changes, we have to be cognizant of the people who it impacts. And we need those individuals at the table when we're talking about changing how they live, how they eat, and how they survive. They should be to the table.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you. Let me go here to the 8-point plan that the City Council just recently released. I don't know how many of you that are joining us tonight was on that. I've been privy to looking at that. I'm pretty sure that many of you, knowing your interest, have seen that 8-point plan. I want to start with Radisha. I know we know your feelings, and I don't know if you even think that plan was even worth the paper it was written on. But have you looked at the 8-point plan? What do you think? Was it worth anything? Is it of any value whatsoever? What was significantly missing from it that was not there? And if anybody can post that in the chat, so those who haven't seen it might see it, go ahead and do that. But Radisha, what do you have to say about that City Council's 8-point plan?
I wish they would have donated me all that paper so my kids could have done some of this dope artwork we working on. First of all, how you gonna release an 8-point plan and community isn't involved? Now, Gregory Manny, I still gotta walk around this city. I already got a target on my back, so I ain't gonna say too much that's gonna get me in trouble. I don't think it's worth nothing. I just think it's there just to be there, and that's my personal opinion. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but that's mine.
All right, thank you. That's fair. That's fair enough. Antonio, what do you think? 8-point plan. What was missing from it? What was good about it, if anything?
I skimmed through it before the call. The only thing I've seen things in there to keep retention high for NOPD, funded for NOPD. Something I see something in there about NOIT doing what it's supposed to do. Some more funding for that and some programming with NOIT. Just surface level stuff. I didn't see nothing in there. No games. That was that's a reactive, like the plan that they put together. Again, you could tell nobody who actually doing the work was a part of that process. You could look at it and tell. So I'd seen what I expected to see. Some money thrown here for NOIT programming, some crime, but it wasn't. I didn't see nothing in there that made me jump and say,
yeah. And you and Bradisha just made me think of something, and there was a letter that went out signed by a lot of different organizations opposing that 8-point plan, and I really just think that you all, along with the help of everybody on this call and Justice and Mian and whoever else is willing to put together our own 8-point plan and say this is what we need funding for, and what we who are in the trenches and on the ground need to see happen in the city to bring real change. Yours is not where the paper was written on, and here's our 8-point plan.
But I don't mean to interject, Reverend Manu, but even with that, being a part of creating the youth master plan and helping build out CYPB and everything they did, the purpose of that was to help organization get funding and to also be some type of roadmap to youth and family. So what do you say to folks like myself who have offered damn near free consultations for everything they done built out, but your organization still don't receive the funding or support? So my question is to you, how can I and my organization and my youth and families trust that if y'all decide to pull something like this together, my organization, other grassroots organizations is going to receive funding and support? Because oftentimes you guys, not you specifically, take our opinions, our feedback, our work, our children, use that data, and those checks are deposited to larger organizations or individuals. So how do y'all build the trust amongst us? Because I done tried all that before. So how do you convince me that it's worth it is what I'm asking you.
Right, I got you, and I understand what the recurring theme is funding and investment into the people and the organizations that are truly doing the work. And I know that we're hearing that over and over and over, and that's what we need to demand is investment in organizations that are truly doing the work, and not settle for investing in those same scenarios of folks that are just holding the seat and perpetrating like they're doing something. So I'm hearing you loud and clear. 8-point platform, Leroy.
So let's just take and look at the 8-point platform as track and field. So you have a thing called agile methodologies that teach you how to solve things as a business. The 8-point platform is somebody's job description. If you look at each area, it has to do with something someone should be doing already that's being paid for it. For example, you see the part that say enforcement of curfew. That's already a given, so it should be accountable and being taken care of. And if not, what does it look like? The part that said juvenile court judges getting tougher on crime. How do you get tougher on crime? Do you speak reform? You talk about demand of supervision from parents. They already need the support, so we know we're already there. So things that people write in their grants as line items, so why they should get funded, is exactly what the 8-point plan is. So I'm not saying the plan don't work, but who's holding who accountable, and where are the checks and balances? Because someone has already been paid for everything that's listed here. Expand the capacity of youth study. But if you're 52% low on hiring, which means you don't even have half the staff needed, then that is a city area. So at that point, do we have the true connection of a continuum of services with the person at the top and their own employees? So we come to the citizens and ask us, hey, what do y'all think? It should be asking the person that, hey, ask the boss, the director, the supervisor of this area, is this taking place? If so, how? If not, why not? Because everything listed is something that's already in someone's job description. Every single thing on there.
That's very telling. Good insight. That's incredible. Thank you, Leroy. Tamara, 8-point platform. What's your analysis?
First of all, the 8-point platform wasn't even endorsed by all the city council members, which was a definite inclination of separation amongst the council. Everybody didn't endorse the 8-point plan. The 8-point plan also was not inclusive. And when I say inclusivity, I'm talking about the folks that are actually doing the work. The biggest piece of the 8-point plan has to do with youth involvement. So it should have been inclusive of those youth engaged organizations and the actual youth themselves. Like, folks are afraid to bring these young people to the table, but I always share that in my work that victims' families, even the youthful offender is the expert. They can tell you the story of how their life went in the direction it did. And when you get to that place where you can actually be comfortable with having those conversations, I have them all the time. I have them all the time. When you're talking to the 12-year-old family, and the family can decide as an adult, you know, your lifestyle choice probably impacted the decision that your child made that ultimately got him killed. That's a huge step, acknowledgement. But we are afraid to bring those people to the table. And they need to be at the council meetings, right? They need to have, you have to involve folks when you're talking about change and reform and developing new policies, because those are the individuals that it will impact, right? So, I'm privy sometimes to be in the room. Most of you who know me, I challenge the system almost all the time. Was the reason we've sued the police department twice. I've sued the district attorney's office. And Silence is Violence essentially lost a lot of funding when we stepped out in front and say, hey, this is not working, because we're representing the people, right? It's about the individuals that we service. And we took that risk and still take a risk each and every day. So the 8-point plan, I think, is a bunch of jargon that folks sat to the table and they said, again, the best way I can say this, like, carjacking's been happening, Pastor Manning, but when it started happening on St. Charles and at Costco, it became a problem. This is not new for the Black and Brown community. It may be new for our brothers and sisters of other races, but this is not new for us, right? But it's unfortunate that our city council decided to have a special meeting because it has filtered into a different demographic. So now we having special meetings, but when it was happening to us, it was okay. So, we can have some other conversations. I don't want to get too into it, but it's real and it's on the surface.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. They showed us what they thought about the Black and Brown community. For how long have we cried out about crime in our neighborhoods, blight, lights, police, lack thereof, waiting for responses 2 and 3 and 4 hours? It wasn't no special meeting.
You're right. Absolutely. We send you a question that has to do with NORD and reinvestment. I think that we've talked quite a bit about where the investment needs to be. So I don't know if we need to go into that, too deeply, because the investment obviously needs to be with each of you, your groups, and groups like yours that are truly doing the work in the trenches. And we need to demand that. We can go in and really pull that apart and delve deeper, but that's the truth. The money is not getting to where it needs to go. I don't know if any of you feels a need to go into that any deeper before I want to really talk about the charter school system and the school board's responsibility in the rise of crime and violence in our communities. So let me I don't want to pass that question up though, unless you do want to say a word about investments as it relates to NORD.
I do about it, Pastor Man. I would say this, not necessarily just NORD. Let's just look at attrition, right? So one thing we all understand is case management. It's the easy thing going. It's a triage. If each one of us on this call walked into a hospital, they're going to have a record that we've been served. And if not, we begin a new record. Why is this such a hard disconnect to have a continuum of services? So if I'm in a school with one joint system and I'm in a youth study center or whatever the system, I receive government funding, which is a system. I receive some type of counseling, which is a system. All 4 or 5 of those places should be in one centralized case management thing so we can see who we're serving. But if we put in the investment into a building and an agency, then how do we really know who's being served? And every time something happens, we tend to say it's the same kids. Then if the money was already allocated for those kids, then if Antonio did something and he's a part of Joe Blow Group, I should know that Joe Blow Group is receiving funding for Antonio. And if Antonio attends XYZ school, I should know Joe Blow Group sees him and XYZ school. And if he's a part of Miss Smith after school program, all 3 of those persons are using the exact same Antonio Brown to meet their grant requirements. So when Antonio so happens to have a murder, so to say, then we say, what happened? Who was servicing? Well, go find out. Where's the accountability piece that if you have a nonprofit, who are you serving? That's not a hard question. Who are your clients? What names are you turning in? Because you may find that more than one person could potentially be building on the same kids. And the last thing I would say is a segue to where you're going. You can realize that when there are school programs with mental health, and it says to give a report to the judge or the case manager about their progress. But the report says, right, Antonio, I need you to go to his house, meet with his family, talk to them about what their needs are. But what happens with the nonprofits, they go see the kid at school. So you see, so they never went to the house. And this is just being honest. So they go to the school. So therefore, when something happens in the community and they go to court, the information is not accurate because nobody never serviced them exactly where they say in the grant they will go. I will go to his home. I will service first-time gun offenders. I will service those kids of violent crimes if you give us this grant. And what we do, you get the grant, and they say, well, what's going on? Well, such and such was killed at a school. Well, when was the last time you had a home visit? Now, this is where the integrity comes in. He'll have it signed as if he had a home visit. Look at it on your face. But nobody know who is in his house. Matter of fact, they don't live there anymore. Matter of fact, they live with a neighbor and they moved. But that's always after something happened. And that's what Tamara was saying. The true facts are that who's really holding who accountable until something happens.
Good point. Good point. Antonio, you want to say something to that matter?
Oh, no, Brother Crawford said it. He said everything.
Okay. He was referring to you a lot, so I was trying to see if you wanted to chime in on that. But accountability, tracking of who's getting the funding, and are they really utilizing it to do what they were funded to do?
I want to.
Good.
Yeah, Pastor Manning, I want to elaborate.
Sister Belinda, wait a minute. Not yet.
We almost there,
something
Sister
to
Belinda.
say, Pastor Manning.
Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there.
We're almost there, sister. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, we're almost there. Let me just handle this real quick. Let me go. I just want to handle about the public school system, about the charter school system. Is it doing more to increase crime, or and little to decrease crime? And if so, in what ways do we need to advocate for a change in our to our school board and what's going on with our school system? Let me go to Tamara.
Our school systems are broken. Again, the charter school was developed post-Katrina, but this is what the city of New Orleans been wanted to do. It was an opportunity, but most of the residents were not here. So they were able to move their piece of legislation where they implemented charter school systems. Most of the charter schools don't have adequate staffing. The kids that need trauma work, you may have one social worker or two for an entire school. So how can the school sufficiently support these children emotional traumas? We're using Teach for America teachers who's coming into New Orleans to get their student loans paid, and they have no idea about our Black and brown children the community, the culture of New Orleans, because things are different here. Even if you come from areas with high incidence of violence, it's different in New Orleans. New Orleans is not that large, and most people here are connected in some way to each other, if not directly, indirectly. So we fail our children each and every day. We're not giving them the tools that they can use to help them sustain once they leave school and become adults. When we were in school, we had trade schools. Everybody may not be able to go to college, but you had programs in high schools that our young people were able to take and at least leave school and get a decent job where they can sustain, take care of themselves, and offer support to their families. It's just not there. Everybody is in for economic gain, but in the gain of financial interest, that money is not disseminated into the community. Those supports and natural resources are not provided to our children. So what message are we sending? And then there's a multitude of charters. You have a multitude of charter systems here. And how many schools that we have are governed by Orleans Parish School Board?
Right. Let me ask you this for tomorrow. In your estimation, though, what is the demand that comes out of that? What is the call to action that we say as it relates to our charter school system? Is it that this experiment is not working? We need to completely throw it out and start over by elevating our public school systems again?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
All right, all right. And there's not enough people demanding that, right? In your estimation?
No, it's not.
Yeah. Okay.
I think people are tired though, Pastor Manning.
Yeah.
Folks are tired of complaining, and it's falling on deaf ears. So folks are burnt out, right?
Yeah.
But we have to empower each other to make some noise.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, we can't. We are tired, but we've never been allowed to get too tired, and we can't allow ourselves to do that, because this is a life or death matter in more ways than one. Leroy, let me ask you, what's the role of the school system, and what do we need to demand?
Who was you saying?
Leroy,
yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
What is the impact that the school system is having on our children, and what do we need to? How do we need to reform it? What do we need to demand in terms of change out of our school system?
Pastor, that's a loaded question.
I know there's a lot in there.
Listen, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna break it down.
Got like 90 seconds to answer it too.
Here we go. First thing is this: I want you to see the parallel. Some of the schools that are most high performing, if you look at the trajectory of those kids, you'll find that schools that are most high performing in charter schools are schools that have the most kids killed by gun violence. Y'all leave it sit there. You heard it? Those schools who come under the charter are supposed to be the most high performing are schools who've had the most kids killed by gun violence. So there's a parallel there. People fought against keeping it for CY schools. So neighborhood schools changed that a little bit because you don't go from one end of New Orleans to the next.
Wait, hold on though. Let me. That hit me. I'm sure it hit a lot of people. So I can't just leave that there.
Okay.
Why is that? What is the correlation? Why is that? Why is that the case?
The fact of it is this: to win championships, you usually go outside the ranks, and sometimes things are done not as accordingly for the best interest of the kid. So you may have a kid who may be somewhat of a knucklehead, but a hell of an athlete. So you'll find most kids who die from those particular gun violence never died during the season. You always wonder, why is the kid who was once the superstar getting rides from the coach and talk to everyone, you find dying at the end of it all? Because we've shown that our implicit biases to keep kids doing what they want to see, and the larger scale is being the school that's the winning program, the school that everybody say that has everything going on, lose more kids than anyone because they don't take the time to determine what is right for that school, how you do care for those children, and once they win and get the trophies and put them in the air, it's on to what's next. So there's no love there. That's what Tamara is saying. There's one case manager, a social worker, a clinician with 300 plus kids. What do you expect to happen?
Yeah.
But they just won. And you look at it, you just do the homework on it. Those kids that you thought would never, you've never heard of Carr having kids die through gun violence. That's a rarity, but now it's common. You see? Then there's people understanding that there's a need. And because of those same implicit biases, they choose not to address the true issue. That we have kids at those schools that have more than football, basketball, track, extracurricular going on, and how are we meeting their needs? How do we stand before parents and say, we love your kid, when if they get off the bus hungry, they won't even feed them? If they get off the bus with no shoes, that they need to have their hair combed or just some personal hygiene or wash their clothes, it's a problem. But when it's parade season, we're trying to determine what's going to happen with a kid, but they're going to march for Mardi Gras. It sends a conflicted message. So now you say, well, what do? We got to strap everything, because at the end of it all, the kids are not important. And they know they're not important, so they're frustrated. They're aggravated. They're doing almost anything. It's almost like kids having suicidal ideation. They don't want to harm themselves, but it's so deep in depression that they don't really care what happened to them. And what kids you know come from winning to all of a sudden they don't care if they live or not? Those schools have changed how we love people in New Orleans. It is what it is.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let me move to Radisha. How is the school? What's the school's role in the impact of crime and our violence in our community, and what change do we need to make?
So it's looking like we got like 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 4 minutes to answer these questions, and I just saw Mr. Ernest made a comment, and so I'm gonna leave y'all with this. There's a poem that I wrote for the kids. It's titled "How do you think they feel?" And it's gonna basically answer every question that you asked tonight, Pastor Manny, if you don't mind reciting it.
Okay, go ahead.
It goes like this. Drugs and guns is what they're surrounded by. Liquor stores and crackheads is all that they drive by. Concern only comes in when they're committing a drive-by. Miss me with the lock them kids up. All of this is happening on our time. Adults are even given innocent until proven guilty. Our kids are already guilty before they steal their first car, or smoke their first guard, or kill their first friend over a trauma-related scar. How do you think they feel? Going to schools, having teachers who can't relate to them, being homeless or hungry, being judged by folks who only want them to go from the school to prison pipeline only, seeing their mom struggle because you can't make more than a certain amount when living in low-income housing, being finessed by systems you know messed up, but you just a kid. So you wake up every day and do what you gotta do, even on days you can't get dressed up. Now that's messed up, but I swear I feel y'all. Having to listen and deal with the constant noise and chaos when all in all, you just wanna be a kid. But you can't, because long before you were born and I was born and your mama was born, the juvenile system was created. Welfare was designed to keep homes with single women and apart from men whom they share babies with. Look around us. All of this is messed up. We losing babies to systems and pistols. We in an uproar on social media, but still losing our people too. I can't single out who's who anymore. We're all victims at this point. But back to the children. Are we seriously gonna put all the blame on them? All the shame on them? How do you think they feel? Losing family, friends, and everything they've built over and over to hurricanes and tornadoes, to gun violence and leaders who want to catch or relaxing or Barbados, getting caught in crossfire, names splattered in the media when they're dead and gone, or only when they've done something wrong. What about the children? But I'm just supposed to sit around here with a young daughter and ties to half of New Orleans youth while nonprofits try to profit off the back of our kids? I'm just supposed to sit around here like parents are at no fault here for not holding schools, systems, themselves, and our kids accountable. I'm just supposed to sit around here like none of this is happening. Man, what has happened? The kids are off limits. Anything they want and dream should be a given, but we out here pretending to help them with their interests and visions. Y'all are truly missing it. Y'all mission's not clear. What about the children? I won't attend another meeting just to meet. We don't want to be highlighted. We want to be funded so the youth can really run this. How do you think they feel? For the youth, y'all are true, know and believe, NOYC got you.
Thank you, buddy. So that was incredible and powerful. We hear you. Thank you for sharing that. Before we move on to questions, Antonio, I'll cut you a little short because we want to move to questions, but if you have anything to say on the issue of the school and their complicit role in crime and violence, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, I'll be quick. The school system has a lot. Our education system is trash. I graduated in 2012 from what we call a non-functioning charter school, where I was socially promoted from 9th to 12th grade. Didn't have the social skills or anything like that to thrive in college. In fact, my school made sure they passed everybody so that they could reach the 100% graduation rate. By the time I got to college, I was already paying for remedial classes because I wasn't educated to take the classes I needed to take. I also wasn't socially developed enough to even function in that type of environment where I get a schedule and I'm instructed to go to class and do everything on my own. That type of independence was not what I was prepared for my 4 years attending a charter school. And I had the privilege of attending, schools pre-Katrina, before Katrina hit. So I know what a community school looked like. So I just say all that to say I'm not the only one who went to a school like that was traumatizing. Well, we had silent lunches and couldn't talk to each other and stuff and had that trauma with that. But I say all that to say the schools have everything to do with it, with the zero tolerance policies and everything that they did, and not preparing us to be functioning adults in New Orleans. That's what we spent most of our times. When I was going to my charter school, I had to be up like 4 something in the morning, sitting outside before the sun was out to go to a school just to be let off the bus when it was nighttime, and not to receive what I needed to be able to function was detrimental to a lot of things, my trauma and everything that I went through. So charter schools have a lot to do with crime in New Orleans. And mind you, I graduated in 2012. I went through Katrina. I had that trauma from Hurricane Katrina and everything I've been through leading up to my charter school. So I'm sitting in schools where teachers telling me, look them in the eyes, and I've got metal detectors getting patted down every day, one counselor in the school, police officers everywhere. What message were you trying to send me? And then I drop out of college because I wasn't prepared, come back to New Orleans. Every job I work at, all the opportunities I had in my community were minimum wage jobs. So now I'm dealing with depression and everything else. I just was lucky enough to have a real village around me, like we have on our BMR shirts, a real village around me where I could contact Ernest Johnson or somebody before I make a decision that alter my life forever. So charter schools have everything to do with it right now. These are the Katrina babies right now that we're dealing with. And again, people don't understand how they screaming. We screaming for help. I didn't go to school for programming to create a program to deal with mental health issues for Black men. I knew it already because I deal with it. So we have the answers and the solutions. I just think people don't like the way we give it to them. But more of the story, charter schools the school system in general is excuse my language, Pastor, shitty. So that plays a big part into why you get the results that you get. If you're giving me this and I'm dealing with this, for my whole entire, childhood going, getting ready to go function, then the results you get, you shouldn't be surprised. So I know if I was socially promoted and had to deal with silent lunches and zero tolerance policies to get suspended and all that other stuff, not having an outlet to talk to nobody or nothing like that. Everybody, not Antonio, everybody handled that differently. I know I handled it and it wasn't the best way. So I say all that to say that's what kids going through in the charter school system. And I've been saying we need to get rid of it. They told me if I want to work with kids, I need not to say nothing negative about charter schools, but I'm for the people, so I could care less. We
keep telling you. That's right. That's right. Thank you. Listen, we're going to take questions. We'll probably go at about 6:40 tonight because we're getting started a little late on questions. So normally try to get done at 6:30, but we're going to go a little bit longer because these are important questions. We want solutions. We want demands. We want something we can take back with concrete actions. Sylvia, what do you got? We got some questions from people.
Oh, yes, indeed. Sister Belinda Parker Brown first.
I know you got a lot to say.
Thank you, Sylvia. Hey, Pastor Manning. I miss you guys. Thank you all so much for having this forum on tonight. I was determined not to miss it.
But I do have a concern. You know, I wanted to put this out there. I'm really enjoying Leroy because I think that he's a straight shooter, and he's basically leading and guiding us directly to where we need to be. And if I'm wrong, Leroy, you may correct me at any time. You know, I put in the chat that, you know, when we are speaking truth to power, they mute us. They're really not hearing us. And because of the fact that, you know, hearing is an action word, you know, they can listen to us, but when we walk away and we still have, like you say, Pastor Man, in the 21st century, we're still dealing with these same things we were dealing back, you know, way back then. So I have one concern. You know, one of the tricks that they do is that they would put us in a trap as organizations. You know, I'm a grassroots organization. We have many other different organizations on here. So what they do to us is put us in a trap to fight for a small amount of money, grants. You know, that's one of the things that I stopped doing a long time ago, was chasing after the grant money. So I wanted to make that point, Pastor Manny. And when they do that, what they do is minimize the power in our community, our unity of coming together to get what it is that we really need to help our young people.
So you just wanted to make that comment, Sister Belinda? You were right.
I really wanted to make that comment because that's something that we got to take notice to. You know, if we don't take notice to that, then they're going to continue to cause us to fight after, you know, these grant money, where when we can't get enough, you know, $7,000 is not enough for us to do what needs to be done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Let me move on to a question too. Let me just say, does any of our, I don't want to pass that comment up though. It was very worthy of a response. Any of our panelists have a response to that?
Say that what she's saying is very accurate. And also what she's stating is that we have to really understand, how do we navigate through a system that's blurred, because you don't know who you're next to and what are their level of interests for what it takes to be where they want to be. So she's speaking the honest truth, but the truth always stands above every litmus test. That's why our kids are in the streets, losing their everything. We could have met years ago, but what we see in crime, what we see in carjacking is brand new, because these are brand new kids. Some may be repeat offenders, but we never addressed it from 2000 to 2005 to 2010, 2015, 2020, and we're still here now having the same 8 points. So she's absolutely correct.
All right. Thank you. Let me move on to the next question. Sylvia.
That's Simone and then Shawanda.
Go ahead, Simone.
So thank you, Pastor. And I just wanted to agree with Ms. Parker to start off with. There's a bunch of things that I wanted to say, but I wanted to agree with Ms. Parker when it came to chasing small, teeny grant funds to do such integral work when you're actually on the ground, and what a waste of time it is. And the fact that that money should be coming from our city government and our state government and our federal government to actually handle some of the trauma that has been just so consistent across the board, not only with youth, but also with adults, and how that fits into the criminal court system. And then I just wanted to mention an initiative that we're starting up, and a bunch of people in the room are actually part of the initiative, including Mr. Johnson and Tamara as well, which is to create a trauma recovery center. And a trauma recovery center basically takes care of the people that have been completely lost in the system, and the people that are caught between all of the violence and have never been able to process the trauma that they have received either through gun violence or through any other violence, who don't feel comfortable going to authorities, who don't feel comfortable going to the police, who don't feel comfortable cooperating with the district attorney's office in any formal way. And even frankly, those people that do cooperate with the DA's office and do cooperate with the police department just do not get the trauma services that they need. Trauma services like psychiatric treatment, like work with children. It provides, Trauma Recovery Center provides treatment with children as well. And so I just wanted to let folks know that we have started an initiative. If people are interested in the initiative, we are doing small groups right now to talk to people about where the help is needed. We're trying to do it out of University Hospital, likely, and we are going for federal dollars. We're going for state dollars, and we're going for city dollars for that initiative.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you. And you are putting your contact information in the chat? I
absolutely will.
All right. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you for that work. And we're excited to hear about it. And Sylvia Shawanda was next.
Yes, Pastor. And then Miss Amen. And then Mr. Dennis.
Okay.
Good evening. I wanted to say, and I have your panelists, I've watched their work and seen them in action, and I work with the Lower Ninth Ward Voters Coalition, and I just wanted to share some information and invite some of you all to a possible solution in joining us. We recently worked with Xavier University, and they've created a student survey around the issue of voting. And in that student survey, we got Xavier to include 2 questions that we thought was important for students to respond to. And that is for them to identify an important area of need that they have, and also an area of interest that they may have. And what we're seeking to do with that is to have some data that we can at least go out and present when we talk about what the needs are for students and for children from the community, coming from the students. And in particular, Xavier can only work with 18-year-olds. So we're getting this information from our 18-year-old college students. But at the same time, understanding the issues and the complications of working directly with the school, we've also have engaged in a media campaign where we're asking organizations and companies such as yours to say, if there's a service that you can provide to these students, mental health, a job opportunity, training, if that's what your company and organization does, we would like to partner with you that when we push out, hey, students, do this survey, on the back end, we can say, here are some services that are provided or available to you. If any of you all would like to join that effort, I invite you to call me. We're trying to do this. The survey is scheduled to be released either March 4th or March 7th. We're going to run it for 7 to 10 days inside of the high schools. I do work with the high schools in terms of trying to push information out to them. The school board did recently recognize last week of being voter registration week in the high schools. So they're on board with this effort. And again, we're just trying to figure out what students say they need and how we as a community can provide some of the resources and make it available directly to them and to their parents, that they can tap into what services you all provide.
Thank you, Shawanda. This is definitely going to take every effort by everyone. And so we thank you for what you're doing, and you are including your information in the chat.
I will put it in the chat now.
All right, thank you so much. Let's see, Miss, is it Amen?
Yes, and then
okay.
Mr. Dennis.
All right. Question, Miss Amen.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. This is a powerful meeting. I really appreciate the input of all of the presenters. My concern is that somehow we see New Orleans as different from what's going on to Black people generally throughout this country. And it is by design, you know, that you throw some monies here and there and let people squabble over it. I think that there needs to be, I do believe there needs to be less talk. And I do believe that there are people on the ground who are aware of what the needs are, but they need to have resources in order to address those needs. So my background is social work as well as law. So I started out being a social worker in public administration, and I went into criminal law. My mother was the dean.
And Ms. Ahmed, I got to give you about 45 more seconds, okay?
Sure. My mother was the dean of the School of Social Work at Southern University, and she just recently died. So my time right now is really caught up with that. But I would suggest, first of all, that you make this recording available to all of us, so that these thoughts will not get lost. And I would like to present these thoughts to the Black social workers in New Orleans, as well as the National Association of Black Social Workers, and to also introduce it to Southern University, the new dean there, Dean Chazon, so minds can come together to set up a holistic strategic plan. That's what I wanted to offer.
Thank you so much, and you will include your information in the chat, please, so that those who would like to and can get a hold of you. Let me move to Mr. Dennis for a question, please.
Yeah, not only a question, but a great observation. I think this has been, as the former person spoke, very profound and very, can I say, grit, down to the earth type of information that we do need to do for ourselves, that 501c3s and other instruments that have been thrown our way, the crumbs that I heard that Ms. Melinda Parker Brown talk about, and others on here that have failed us. These programs have never been there as a solution for our youth. Our youth are always the pipeline to prison. I heard someone say it's about the hair, how you're wearing your clothes. It's not meeting the source, which is the spirit of that child. We can only do this. I think we need to be self-funding. I think we need to cut away from the constructs of any entity, government entity, that really does not have our interest at heart. These things are becoming more and more valuably true. I think that everybody on here has the same mindset that what all we've tried to work with a government or the government has failed us repeatedly and generationally. When we talk about the youth having to raise themselves in the household, this started years, decades ago, as we all know. And right now we are all bleeding and wounded. And yes, we do have internally, we do have our own solutions. We have to cure these ourselves. I think we need to cut away from government as some kind of rebel and start doing for ourselves, putting our money, our bucks, not into sources that never handle any cure for us, but for ourselves, like these programs where these people are really working. I'm proud of you all. You are smart Africans. Now I represent Louisiana United International with Ms. Melinda Parker Brown. And you know that we are a organization for justice and wholeness for a community of African people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. And that reminds me of our reparations town hall that we're putting together and the work that we're trying to do to make sure that funding gets to the right places. And so you'll hear more about that in a week or so when we present about that. Sylvia, is there another question?
No, I don't see any more hands up.
Oh, all right, very good. Let me give our speakers then the last word. If you just leave us with a summation of what you want us to know as we go our way, prepare to go our way tonight. Let me start with Tamara. What do you want to leave us with tonight?
I want to leave you with some peace and blessings. It was a lot to process on this call, that we have to empower each other and continue to advocate for not just our young people, but also for each other. We need to be here for each other. not work in silos, because that happens too often where we work separate from each other when we should be more coordinated and working together.
Thank you, Tamara. Leroy, what do you want to leave us with?
Well, I'll say this. I enjoyed it. I was apprehensive at first to come on. I leave tomorrow to go to Phoenix. And I like to have, like I know Shawanda personally, I think we need to take and deal with people who has a skill set, not for personality, but for characteristics that can help save our kids. And the only way you know that is by knowing who knows what to do when there's no book or blueprint. It's about how we care for kids. So I'm a caring person, but I'm also a skilled, trained person. And if we could change the mindset of people who make decisions, we can help save our people close a lot sooner, faster.
Thank you, Leroy. Have a good trip. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate the work that you do. You as well, Tamara. Radisha, what do you want to leave us with?
I hope everybody took something from this conversation and understand that all of us, whether you've been living in New Orleans for a short term, long term, we are definitely impacted by trauma, drama, and right now the high level of violence. And a high percentage of that number is being committed by our most youngest people in this city. Before you judge them or before you go to a table and say what they need, actually talk to them, assess the problem. Like, I don't really see nobody on this call when I'm in Central City, Melf, Magnolia. I don't see nobody. Like, I would like to see our local government in the street, seeing these organizations saying they do all the work, knocking on doors, canvassing. Like, we need more people in the streets than on Zoom calls and at conferences. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of mental health. People are hurting. People are in survival mode. I'm asking that if you have any type of personal beef or feelings towards anybody as it relates to working in a youth and family field, put that to the side and please help save these kids or prevent them from ending in any of these systems that's already designed for them to fail, and support your local youth organizations that's doing the work. Like, y'all come see what we're doing. I tell people all the time, I ain't got to send you no email. I ain't got to send you no address. Pull up on me. I'm in the streets every day.
Thank you, Radisha. We appreciate what you do. We're trying to get you some help, and we're here. We're hearing you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do. Keep doing it. And we pray that you just don't get discouraged, because you are out there in the street, and we appreciate what you're doing because you're affecting real change. And whatever we can do to support you, we're going to take action to do it. Antonio, what do you want to leave us with?
Just like we said on our Black Man Rising Church, so like we said in our meetings, it's about generations being united and about the village that we always talk about. Let's keep that village alive if that's what we say we're gonna do, and let's remember that we are each other's responsibility. It's up to us to step up to the plate and come and make that a part of what we do. But we are each other's responsibility. We have to take care of each other. If we don't take care of each other, nobody else will. So we need to make sure we keep showing up for each other and stop all the fluke stuff and really sit down and get the work done.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for being here. Listen, I want to, Ernest Johnson is a pillar of justice in Miami. He is, that took the lead on getting this discussion together tonight and asking you all to be here. I want to ask Ernest, who is the director of Ubuntu Village, if he has any comments that he wants to add to this conversation and his important work that he's doing to impact our young people and their families.
Thank you for the opportunity, Pastor. And again, thank you to the panelists on this call. Most of the panelists on this call, at some time or point, we have worked together or pushed for justice for young people. I want folks to know that no one is forgotten, and even though it may seem like we are working in silo, we are working together, and it's just so much that's going on. But I invite folks to connect after this call and see what we can do together to support each other. And it ain't always how it looks, right? You know, everybody's doing this work, and we all are struggling for money. It's money, you know, it's one of the biggest issues in resources. And one of the things that we are pushing for right now in response to not only the 8-point plan, but just in general is to build an economic justice system inside of this city with a budget line item from the city to support organizations like that are on this particular call. And also, as Pastor Manny spoke of, we're also looking at another way in a form of reparation, right? How can we specifically identify organizations to support them and sustain them in a way that we want them to sustain themselves? So hope is not lost in anyone's vision to save youth in the city. It's just sometimes we get lost in our own world and what we do because we all have a life. But I want folks to know, in particular from Ubuntu, which is a reflection of each human being in society, that we're not against you. We are trying to support you and help you in your endeavor so that we can all live a sustainable life and our children can have a future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Listen, I just want to say the church, the Black church, indeed needs to step up. Many of our churches are getting tax relief and have benefited in many different ways, but we are not stepping up as much as we should. Broadmoor Community Church is trying to do that as much as possible. I'm in the streets and will continue to be in the streets, but every Black church that admittedly are the powers that be in our racist society has tried to destroy the role of the Black church. And when the Black church needs to rise up again and become central to our communities, because I believe that our young people, our old people, every person needs a moral compass. And in my faith tradition, the best moral compass is to learn how to love each other better, as exemplified through my Savior on the cross of Calvary. So I will continue to say that that we need to be the central place where we are feeding people, where we're advocating for good jobs, living wages, where we are promoting getting the streets and being about justice. That's all I'll say about that. But let's end there. Thank you, panelists, again. We're going to end just with any general announcements that anybody has. I want to say this: continue to wear your masks. And those who know me know that I don't do a good job of that. I need to do better as well too, but there are variants out there that could be down the pike. So continue to do that and be safe. Are there any announcements about any upcoming events that we need to be made aware of?
Yes, the New Orleans Youth Coalition, we're hosting our first For the Youth exhibit this spring. So I would love to be able to share the invitation to you all. And we also have a call to action rally coming up that we would also like to extend an invite to you all. It's a platform designed for the youth to show how they feel through art and what they've seen through the juvenile justice system, along with gun violence, et cetera, et cetera. So thank y'all for sharing our contact information. I'll send it with who contact information I was able to get. And please, Pastor Manny, when I send it to you guys, please feel free to share it.
We definitely will. Thank you for that announcement. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a quick announcement. This is Nancy Freeman. The Center for Restorative Approaches is offering 2 trainings in March. The first is an introduction to restorative approaches, and then how to conduct a restorative circle. Information is available on the website. And the center also has 2 job openings. And I've put something in the chat with the website, and all the information is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and for that information. Anybody else? Any announcements that we need to be made aware of?
Yes, Pastor Manning, this is Belinda Parker Brown with Louisiana United International. I'm going to put our website in the chat we're offering courses that can help people understand the organized abuse in the criminal justice system when it comes to, plea bargaining or, even hiring an attorney, the procedures, process through court. We're having courses to educate and inform people as much as possible about how to protect themselves from organized abuse in the criminal justice system. So I'm going to put that information in the chat.
Thank you, Sister Belinda. Appreciate that. Any other announcements?
Yes, how you doing, Pastor Manning?
Good,
this is
good.
Daphne Cross. It's been a long time since I've been on with you all. I was
Good
just
to
letting
have
y'all know I'm here representing the Independent Police Monitor's Office, and I put everything in the chat. We're still out here if needs any valid complaint against NOPD or any services that you all would want concerning the police. Just email us, call our number to let us know. Just want to let y'all know. I know it's been a lot of changes, but we're still out here in the community.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention and reminding us of your work. Any other announcements?
Hey, all. Yeah, I have something to share. This is Marvin Arnold. I'm with Ion Surveillance. We're having a planning meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. to organize against the city's attempt to not only reverse, but institute really harsh surveillance technology in the city and remove checks and balances from the police. So if you'd like to join us, please do. I left the information in the chat. Thank you very much.
Marvin, good to see you. Keep being out there. You know, we support you. You call on me. I'm there anytime. I believe in what you're doing, and we need to stand up against the rollback of the surveillance.
Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements?
Yes, hi, this is Rose Preston, and thank you for a really invigorating and challenging meeting. We need this so much. And I work with a small group, and we put out resources and information on people in trauma with crime survivors. And so I believe that one of my colleagues put it in the chat room for crimesurvivorsnola.org. And if your organization is not in the list of resources, we will definitely want to add you. So please let us know if you know that you're not in it. And hopefully my colleague will put it in. I'm not able to be on my computer. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Ms. Preston. Any other announcements? All right, everybody, hearing none. Listen, I just want to say this as we close. I know that sometimes the things seems like we have a lot of talk, not enough action. The goal is to balance both. When we think about the village scenario and narrative that we uplift a lot of times. In a village, the elders come together, sit around and have to have dialogue about how to come up with solutions. We think that we do this too much, but we're not doing it enough. We're not coming together in platforms like this, hearing voices like yours. This is powerful tonight because we're uplifting voices that are not heard often enough. So we will continue to do this, but we'll also be about action. Show up when we need to show up, when you're called upon. Be there and let your voice be heard. And Justice and Beyond will continue to amplify your voice. We will use this platform until hopefully we get back together in person in April. We need your help to continue to be the organization and coalition that we are. Stand with us, be a part of Justice and Beyond. Keep showing up for these meetings until we're able to be back together here at Broadmoor Community Church, hopefully in April. Let's end in prayer. Sylvia McKenzie, would you close us in prayer, please?
Yes, sir, I will. Everyone, please bow your heads and close your eyes. We just say thank you, Father God. Thank you for the privilege to be on this call this evening with everyone that has taken the place and voiced their opinions, and also, Father God, to be part of the solutions. Father, it's togetherness that we need. It's togetherness that we are praying for. As Braisha spoke, whatever differences we have with one another as Black and brown people, let us put that aside and know this: the crumbs that we do receive, we can knit them all together and make a beautiful blanket in difference. So Father God, I say continue to give us the strength and the powers that we need to be victorious here from this day forward, Father God. It will be actions that's needed. It will be actions that will be taken. So Father God, I ask you to send the resources that you always send. You're always on time, Father God. But we must always remember to bring it to you, to give it to you, to listen to you, and to act on your call. We say thank you, Father God. And we thank you for each and every one of us that's here to make a difference throughout your land. In Jesus' precious name that we have prayed. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Listen, everybody, one last thing for those of you who are still on the call. We at Justice Beyond don't have enough pillars. We need more people to join in. Look, when we were at Christian Unity, we'd have a meeting on Tuesday. We'd have lunch. We'd get people there. Lunch was a draw. We don't have that right now. Hopefully we will again one day. We need more people to be a part. We need to grow our capacity. If you are interested in this, we need you a part of Justice and Beyond, point blank. If there is somebody that is on this call that wants to take the recording and pull out of it what we have talked about tonight and what actions we need to move on, what demands we need to make, what we need to organize around, where we need to agitate, then we will send you the recording and you can analyze that. We just don't have capacity. We are swamped. We've got about 6 people that show up for our organizing calls, 6 to 7 on Tuesdays. We need more people. You who are on here, you are more than welcome. Don't believe the lie that say Justice Beyond is a closed group. That's not true. If you want to be a part of it and help us go higher and solve some problems and be about justice, we will receive you with open arms.
Amen.
So my point is, if you want this recording and you will pull away from it what we need to act on, then we will send it to you and we will gladly be blessed if you will do that. But that's it for tonight. Be safe, be well. Look out for one another, care for one another, love each other, promote peace and love wherever you can on your platform. Good night, everybody.
God bless everybody.
Kevin, I'm willing to do the recording.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Miss Amen. Call me, Belinda.
Yeah, no, I am, Sylvia. I got to talk to you.
Yo.
I love